Hi, everyone, and welcome to your commentary for lesson number 21. And yes, I do have a personal parable about this story, which actually leads into a lot of the other lessons for this first half of the course. But we're going to get into that in a few minutes. Let's first talk about the lesson. So, this lesson is a lead in from our previous lesson, I am determined to see. And now we have something specific. I am determined to see things differently. And this is also where the course starts to give us more structure. And remember, a little structure is not a bad thing. It's what keeps trees standing. That's what keeps rivers in their banks. And so it says for 1 minute, 5 times, we are to simply look at what arises, in the way of anger, looking at our anger. And you may say to yourself, well, Ron, I'm not an angry person. I don't have a lot of angry thoughts. We all are angry in one way, shape, form, or another. And this is why, just to kind of give you a little excerpt from the course, from the text portion. So basically, the course says that anger arises when we feel powerless. And there have been times in all of our lives where we have felt powerless. And so this is asking us once again to bring up past, present, or, future and looking at our anger. And that's all it's asking us to do. And then being willing to say, I'm willing to see this differently. So maybe, when you were 5 years old, your mom told you that you couldn't have candy for breakfast. So you felt really powerless and you threw a fit, and it's saying, well, I'm willing to see that differently. And once again, it's not for you to say, okay, well, my mom was actually just trying to help me because she knew that, she wanted me to grow and didn't want me just to have sugar and so forth and so on. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is simply to ask for that different view, that vision. Remember, we're asking for it. It's not for us to come up with it. It's us to ask for it. And it even states that don't overlook the little ones. Like maybe there's a fly in your house and it's just kind of irritating when it like randomly flies by you. It's saying, don't ignore that because that's a veil for fury. Once again, what is anger according to the course? It is when a sense of powerlessness arises within you. Okay, that's all that it is. So now I want to I would love for all of you to join me in this parable. I had worked for kinder care for many, many years, from 18, and I know I don't always look my age, but I am 31. I will be 32 this year. But 18 until about 31, I worked for kinder care. I only did 1 year where I didn't, and I went to go work for another company, and then I just came back. And so, in the world's eyes, I had the perfect job. I came in at 5:45 in the morning. I'm a morning person. And I left at noon. Then I got to come home, do readings, look up spiritual stuff, do spiritual stuff. And, seemed perfect. I had 2 incomes coming in. I had my readings, plus I had, my normal 5 to noon. And, they had to ask me if I was willing to stay. And I pretty much just kind of made my own schedule and did what I wanted. In a way, I, still followed the guidelines, still did everything I was supposed to, but did it the way I wanted. So it seemed perfect until one day at 5:45 in the morning, I was called into the office and basically told, you're on suspension. A teacher who was with you thought that you were being inappropriate, came to me. We are mandated reporters, and so I had to report you. And I was like, in a state of shock. I had to call my mom. The moment I heard my mom's voice and I got in the car, I broke down, crying. I would never hurt anybody. Why would they think that? Who would do this to me? Oh my gosh, I thought I had friends and all this stuff. And really, I was just angry. I was really angry because I felt as if something was taken away from me. That was my money. You have taken away my money. You have taken away what I thought was my status. You have taken away my pride. You have taken away all this stuff. How could you do this to me? But notice, how could you do this to me? Notice who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the truth of who I am. The truth of who I am is whole, pure, perfect, protected, provided for in all ways. Nothing's wrong in that aspect. But the me, the personality, That's where a lot of this subconscious anger is. That's where a lot of our anger is actually repressed. A lot of us are holding a lot of repressed anger. And so, there was a time for a good 3 days I practiced that lesson because I was so angry. I was so angry. I was angry at people. I was angry at the company. I was angry at myself. I was angry. I was angry at my dog because he looked at me crooked. I literally, like, he jumped on my bed as he normally does. And I don't know, like, he gave me like a weird, like, cocked head look, probably because I had tears in my eyes and was crying almost half the day. And I was like, what? What do you want? Just totally angry. But I had to be willing to see it differently. And it took me 3 days. And even after that 3 days, I was still angry. I still had to practice forgiveness. But I finally was willing to see it differently, really willing to see it differently. I could say the word 700 times. I had to really feel it though. And finally, when I felt it, I can tell you 100% people literally told me, Ron, you were happy before, but you seem happier now. You seem genuinely happy. It's almost like happiness is just radiating off of you, this peace, this joy. And it's because I had let it go. And it was, at that time, it seemed like the worst thing ever. At that, let me tell you, it seemed like the worst thing ever, but it was the best thing that ever happened. In truth, it really was, because it got me to this point where I can practice the Course in Miracles, or I can talk about the Course in Miracles, where I can live the Course in Miracles. And not that I couldn't live it at kindergarten, I was actually teaching the kids about it too. I would, I'd be like, what's our goal for today, kids? And I'd be like, everyone hands up. Our goal is peace. And that's that's how we'd start our circle time. Our goal is peace. So I was still teaching it there too. But this just gave me a deeper opportunity to really face some of my own, anger that I didn't even know that I really had, because it was repressed and it was deep down. But I finally, I got to go through that whole process, and the Course really helped me to do that. So, some people may say, oh my God, when I started the Course in Miracles, my life fell apart. Your life didn't fall apart. You asked for guidance. You asked for this. You asked for this healing. And, Spirit's got to meet you where you are. So it looks like it's being taken away from you, but really it's showing you that it had no value in the first place. So there is my personal parable. Oh, well, and it also leads in because, um, I had to remember I'm never upset for the reason that I think I am. That was like lesson number 5. That was why it's one of my favorite lessons, because I had to remind myself I'm never upset for the reason that I think I am. I think I'm really upset because all this stuff is happening to me, but that's not why I was really upset. I wasn't upset because, this was happening and that was happening. I was upset because I was seeing the past. Because as a child, I didn't have a lot of friends. I just didn't. I was very shy, very recluse. I know people are like, you shy, you recluse. Yes, I did not like to talk to people. I just kind of kept to myself. And, it seemed as if it was playing out again, but just in a much bigger way. And so I had to realize, once again, I'm seeing the past effects of my own thoughts. And the beautiful thing is that the Course just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds onto itself. So our next lesson, number 22, Lee actually kind of goes into what this parable was about as well. About our next one, I'll give you a little sneak peek. Is what I see is a form of vengeance. So, should be interesting. I look forward to seeing you on lesson number 22.